All right, so we need to test and make sure that our domain name records have propagated through the internet. So we need to test and make sure that these subdomains and that our new host records that we've added here are actually working properly. So aside from actually going to the website and seeing what happens, we can use the terminal and a couple of command line tools to help us figure this out. So let's flip over to our terminal window and type a few commands. So the first command we're going to try is the ping command. And what this will do is this will go out to the domain name we enter, and it will tell us what IP address it's using and if the server is responding. So the flag I've entered here, the -C3, it will do the ping 3 times just to make sure that everything's working properly. So let's see what happens here. Okay, so you can see here that it sent 3 64-byte packets to the server, and it got a response each time from 166, 78, 12, 75. And you can see down here it has the full time in milliseconds and all that. We don't need to worry about that right now. We're most concerned about this IP address here. So if you look back at our IP address we entered, that is the same thing. So those match, and that is a good thing. So let's try one more address. Let's try sub 1 just to make sure that that is also pinging to the same. Okay, so as you can see here, those are also working. So this didn't take very long. This actually took only about 10 minutes to completely propagate. So that's pretty fast. Don't expect yours to be that fast, although it may. Like I said, give it some time if it hasn't propagated from where it currently, or if it hasn't propagated yet, or if you're still waiting on it, give it a little bit more time. If you're still having issues with propagation and it's not working, first double check that you have all your settings right in your DNS, and then also double check that you've saved everything and that those settings are intact. If you're still having issues, you can use the hosts file on your local computer, and on a Mac that's going to be in, actually we need to go sudo in etc hosts. Guess I've never used sudo on this computer before. Okay, so your host file is kind of like your local DNS entry. So we can do things in here. We can enter IP addresses. So let's just get this IP address in the clipboard here. And we can enter IP addresses, and we can go, let's see here. So we can do something like that. So if the DNS hasn't propagated yet, we can kind of make a fake DNS entry so that only our computer goes out to that address. So this is really useful if you're waiting a really long time for your DNS to propagate and you just need to test out your services. Now, don't forget that you've made entries in here, because your browsers and actually your entire computer will always look at this file before it goes out to look at external DNS. So your changes here are going to only affect your computer. So if you get in down the line and you've realized you've messed some stuff up in here, you want to make sure you change it back to what you've done prior. The other kind of funny thing you can do here is if you have a problem with procrastination, or you like to visit sites that you probably shouldn't be visiting while you're working, you can do things like add reddit.com, and let's see, we'll do one other here, facebook.com. And this 127.0.0.1, this is also called a localhost address. So this will basically just loop back to our own computer's web server. So this will essentially make both Reddit and Facebook point at this computer. So my computer will think that Reddit and Facebook is itself, and it essentially won't let you go out to those websites. So this can be kind of fun. There are some even scripts out there that will automate this process for you, that at certain times of day it will write to this host file and it will put these entries in there, and it will prevent you from going to those websites. So let's give this a try and see if it worked. So if I try to go to Reddit, oh, see, it loops back. And Facebook, Facebook. Oh, see, Facebook uses the www where Reddit doesn't. So we'd have to enter that one too. So that one didn't work out quite as well. The other funny thing is if we go to our system preferences and we turn on web sharing, now when we go to Reddit, we'll actually get, we'll actually get the local web server here. So that's a fun trick, and it is also an interesting way to get your websites working if your DNS has not propagated yet. But you also want to make sure that you delete these when you're not using them, otherwise you'll disable your favorite websites. Okay. So one last time here, the ping command will allow us to go out and see if our server is responding and from what IP address. And it looks like our DNS is propagated, so now we can jump onto our server and set up our virtual hosts for these two domains.